Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Kelly Craft, in today for Ted Rollins, along with Julia Janae.
And we are turning our attention now to Massachusetts, following new developments in the murder trial for Brian Walshe. The date has been delayed after the defendant was ordered to be sent to a mental hospital.
Walshe is accused of murdering and dismembering his wife, Anna, who disappeared in January of 2023. Her body has never been found.
Now, here's a look back at this case from Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. He has more on the case against Brian Walshe.
No comment from Brian Walshe after he was charged with the murder of his wife, Anna Walshe, the missing Massachusetts mother of 3 young boys. And while he's not talking, prosecutors are piecing together a timeline of what they say he was doing in the days after her disappearance. Prosecutors say that Anna Walshe was last seen here at her Cohasset home on New Year's Day. Anna was last seen at home between 4 and 5 a.m. by a family member. Walshe told police that he had slept in that morning, but prosecutors say that he was actually awake and searching disturbing topics on his son's iPad.
At 4:55 a.m. on January 1st, he searched how long before a body starts to smell. At 4:58 a.m., how to stop a body from decomposing. At 5:20 a.m., he searched how to embalm a body. At 5:47 a.m., 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. At 6:25 a.m. on the 1st, how long for someone to be missing to inherit. At 6:34 a.m. on the 1st, can you throw away body parts?
The very next day, more Google searches.
There were also more Google searches on January 2nd. At 12:45 p.m., hacksaw best tool to dismember. At 1:10 p.m., can you be charged with murder without a body? At 1:14 p.m., can you identify a body with broken teeth?
Prosecutors say that on January 2nd, Walshe came here to this Home Depot store, located in Rockland, Massachusetts, 9 miles from his house. He spent $450 on cleaning supplies.
Items included cleaning products, mops, brushes, tape, towel, a Tyvek suit with boot covers, buckets, goggles, baking soda, a hatchet.
Investigators say that he also visited a home goods store in Norwell, where he purchased 3 area rugs. Just down the road, Walshe was caught on camera, pacing back and forth in this juice bar, where he ordered a smoothie for his son. Once at home, investigators say Anna's phone was turned off for good after 2 days of no outgoing calls. On January 3rd, prosecutors say Walshe drove to an apartment complex in Abington, 16 miles from his home, where they say surveillance video shows him hoisting a heavy garbage bag into a dumpster. At 4:48 p.m., prosecutors say Walshe drove to a second apartment complex in Abington. And at 5:10 p.m., investigators say he threw items away into a dumpster in Brockton. That's located an additional 10 miles away from his home.
On January 3rd, that same day, at 1:02 p.m., he did some more Google searches. What happens to hair on a dead body? At 1:13 p.m., what is the rate of decomposition of a body found in a plastic bag compared to on a surface in the woods? At 1:20 p.m., can baking soda mask or make a body smell good?
On January 4th, Anna was reported missing by Washington, D.C. co-workers after she didn't show up for work. Meanwhile, investigators say Brian was busy buying more supplies. On January 4th, prosecutors say that he came back to this home goods store. He also went to the TJ Maxx next door. On this day, he purchased towels, a bath mat, and some men's clothing. At 4:15 p.m., Walshe went to Lowe's and purchased squeegees and a trash can. Later that day, when police arrived at his house to do a welfare check on Anna, they observed the back seats of his Volvo down and a plastic liner in the back.
Chemists later analyzed the car, and there was President blood in the car.
On January 5th, cell data shows Walshe's phone was in Swampscott, where his mom lives, located 40 miles away from his home. Investigators say that the phone traveled to the back of the building, where a dumpster was located. Then on January 6th and 7th, police searched the Walshe property in Cohasset. Prosecutors collected a lot of evidence in the basement of this home, including DNA blood evidence and 2 knives. On January 8th, Walshe was arrested for misleading police in his wife's missing person investigation. The next day, he was arraigned and pled not guilty. Then on January 17th, prosecutors announced that he would be charged with her murder. The next day, he was back in court.
The defendant is now before the court charged with murder of his wife, Anna Walshe, as well as disinterring of a body.
And all eyes have now been on when a trial date is going to be in this case, but that has recently changed. We thought it was coming up soon. So joining us now in studio with the latest is Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who has been following this case from the very beginning. Matt, you were out there on the ground in Massachusetts when this happened.
Right after his arrest, and we've been waiting for this, so has the community, and postponed indefinitely, so that the accused wife killer Brian Walshe can now undergo his competency evaluation, expected to last somewhere in the nature of 20 days. Today is day 1. Walshe is accused, of course, of killing and dismembering his wife Anna Walshe back in 2023 after prosecutors say that he suspected the mother of his 3 children of having an affair. Her body has never been recovered. His trial is set to begin in 2 weeks with jury selection. Now it's on hold until this evaluation is complete, after his attorneys filed for a delay, telling the court that he's been suffering from both anxiety and fear ever since being stabbed in jail that was reported last month. The next competency date has been set for October 27th, and no trial date has yet been set in this case until that's complete.
And Matt, defense counsel also filed a motion in this case to move this trial. I mean, a lot of attention. The community was up in arms about this situation.
You're exactly right. Yeah, the defense recently filed that motion asking for a change of venue or veneer, basically asking for a different courthouse or a different jury from a different jurisdiction, moving it from the Dedham courthouse where the Karen Reed trials played out. And prosecutors are asking for the Karen Reed buffer zone around that courthouse to be in place if it happens there, with the anticipation of some of the same witnesses being called, including right there on your screen, fired Trooper Michael Proctor from Massachusetts State Police. Walshe is charged with first-degree murder, misleading investigators, and obstruction of justice. Of course, we've reported he's pled not guilty.
Matt Johnson, thanks so much for that live report. I know you're going to keep us updated on how this evaluation goes.
Of course.
With Brian Walshe. Let's bring in our analyst who's standing by, criminal defense attorney Marie Pereira. Marie, we are almost 3 years since this happened, and now we're looking at a mental health evaluation. This is a far cry from what we're seeing in the Bianca Ellis case that we're also monitoring today.
He must be out of his mind if he really believes that someone is going to believe he was crazy when it happened and he didn't appreciate the wrongness of his crime. The browser history is Exhibit A. His shopping cart is the smoking gun. Reasonable doubt left the room. Every click, every cart, every video puts him right there. I just don't see how, because he got stabbed in prison, in jail. Okay, that happens when you go to prison, in jail, right? You want to now claim you're crazy and you shouldn't be held responsible for what you did? You know what? His attorneys are doing their job, and if he really is exhibiting that to them, they have to have him evaluated. But at the end of the day, once the jurors hear all of the things he did during, before, and after, that was a really sane person just trying to hide a crime. Nobody's going to believe that he didn't know what he was doing.
And Marie, when we talk about storytelling, you know, the prosecutors, it looks like here, from at least Matt's background piece, kind of have a good story to tell. They're talking about that he stabbed her because he believed she was having an affair.
Absolutely. And he lied about it. I remember this case. He used his son's iPad to do the searches, and then he just went around disposing body parts. The Google searches were so damning. The browser history just leaves nothing to the imagination. It shows everything that was in his mind. That's what people don't understand. What you search for is what's in your heart and in your brain. You could try to delete it. It never goes away. When will these criminals just really watch court TV and figure it out of what not to do?
We see some of the same patterns over and over again. Marie Pereira, thank you for that analysis. We'll, of course, keep everyone updated on what happens with that evaluation and whether or not he's competent to stand trial.